Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and thanks for popping in. Today I want to kind of continue from my last video I made with myself. Now, I want to answer some comments that were brought up, and I think it might be quite interesting. So I want to do that today, and the other thing is I want to thank you a lot, and Mr. Wu is very grateful for your kind words and your attention, and he feels so happy that we can talk about and he can discuss all kinds of cameras from back in the day, and it's been a hell of a lot of fun. So today I want to get into some of the Q&A questions and comments that came up regarding my life and my life as a photojournalist and documentary photographer and commercial photographer. All right, so let's get into it. Now, the first comment was from Dennis, and he says he'd like to have a slideshow or something of my pictures. Yeah, and I'll do that. I was looking at some of my pictures, and I got tens of thousands of pictures, even from back in the day when I was using film. So I need to scan a few of those, and I do have some pictures of some pretty big events. The big one was, and I'll post it, was my time covering the big tsunami of 2004, in which I considered my 9/11, and I'll bring those pictures too. And I was able to scoop everybody on that. The other one was the other comment was in question was sending clients photos and the file size and the final file size to send. Okay, so here's how it works. When you go off on an assignment, what you want to do is, say for example, you do a riot or something that's breaking news, especially breaking news. In my case, the big one was probably the tsunami. I'll use that as an example. So as soon as you get the pictures, I was lucky enough to find an internet cafe, in which I was able to upload the pictures and email them off to Tokyo, to the AP office. So here's what the deal is. The photo editor at the other end, he's like a god. Everything is dictated by the photo editor. He knows what he's looking for, and he knows what's worked. So he's going to choose the pictures. So you don't want to waste his time. So you don't want to send him 30 pictures. You only want to send maybe max 4 or 5 good shots. All right. So once you get the pictures and you put them in your computer, and then you stick it in Photoshop or whatever software program you have, and then what you want to do is downsize it, because what they don't want on the other end is large files. So usually the going rate is the long side of 2048. So with a 2048 file, depending on the camera, you're looking at, even any camera, 1 or 2 megabytes at the most. And the reason being is that the picture is going to be used for print, and print is usually generally 4 color. And newsprint, you don't need anything high end, high big files. And the other end, the photo editor doesn't want to see big files, because it's just going to jam up his pipeline with other pictures coming in throughout the day. So it's very important that you keep your file size manageable. Now, with that said, you have to write a caption, and writing is extremely, like I mentioned many times, is very, very important. If you can't write, you can't take a picture, and I'm a firm believer with that concept, because you have to work with a correspondent sometimes, and you have to be on the same page. So I have to come up with a picture that fits his story or her story, and they have to come up with their story. Hopefully, will fit together with my picture. But generally, I will take the picture that fits their storyline. So I don't even have to see them. But your writing skills have to be real good, because when you write the caption, it's just not who, what, where, and when. It's almost a synopsis. And that caption dictates whether that picture is going to be played or it's going to be spiked. So it's very important to be able to write. And nowadays, photo editors and editors of newspapers and the media are demanding pretty large synopsis. Now, in my days, we didn't have Chat GPT and stuff, but if you're professional enough, you can do it faster than a Chat GPT. So that shouldn't be a problem. And from that point, then you take the images, say 4 or 5 of them, and then you FTP it to the head office, whether for me it was Hong Kong or Tokyo. And then you wait and watch on their website or their media center your pictures coming up. Now they're going to get, the photo editor is sending pictures through the subscribers all over the world. So what you need to do is kind of wait until your picture comes up, and once it comes up, then you've done your job. Then the newspapers around the world, say the Washington Post, will grab it and use it for their front page, or the Miami Herald would say take another picture and use it for their front page. So that's kind of the short of it for its file sizes. So what you want to do is keep it small. Commercial photography is different. There you get large files, and you send it on a TIFF file, because then any program can read it. But that's for photojournalism. We try to use a 2048. Now it could be changed by now. So they're usually JPEGs, and it's usually generated for print or internet destinations. Okay, next is Mr. Connell, I think, interested in photojournalism and getting confidence. All right. Yeah, confidence is really, really important. And like I mentioned last time, how you get into it is that I started by doing self-assignments and getting noticed by the media. And here in Malaysia, back in the day, there was a lot of activities going on, so I was able to get some pretty compelling images. So what I suggest is that you're only as good as your last picture. So, for example, I had a friend when MH370 was missing back 10 years ago. He was one of my underlings, and I told him, okay, here's what you do. You camp out there at that airport all day long, and you get some pictures that are very compelling, especially shoot for emotions. Very, very, very important that you shoot for emotions, and you bury yourself there and don't even move, don't even go to sleep, and you wait and take the pictures, as many as you can. Now, there's a lot of, since he was a freelancer, there's other people, agencies out there that are going to want to pick up his pictures, or he'll string for somebody and they'll want his pictures. But it's a very competitive field, so what I suggest to him is, because if you have good pictures and you give it to the senior photographer and he knows it's good, he's going to spike it. Why? Because it's highly competitive, and he'll want his picture before he sends yours. So be careful. So here's what I suggest you do. You send it to me, let me edit it, and I will choose the picture that you personally send through the wires. Don't give it to him. You do it. And then I know what's going to work and what isn't. You don't. So just keep taking the pictures, and then you give it to me, and then I'll tell you which ones to send to the wires and to the photo editor. So that worked out real well, and I tell you, right now he's got some big jobs with HBO and Vice News, and he's very, very successful. So I'm really proud of him. All right. So then confidence. Yeah, confidence is very important. You can't be shy. You gotta be thick skinned, and you go into it. And I mean, really go into it. Muscle your way through, get the shot, and you gotta think differently. You're a photojournalist, so you see things differently. And remember, if you're shooting for the international media, you have to shoot for an international audience. So if you take a picture of, for example, of some local politician, doesn't mean anything. So you need to show some kind of international angle to it. So that's very important, because your pictures are going to be a lot different from the local media photographers. And always have an identifier. So if you're in Malaysia, in a Muslim country, make sure in the background, foreground, wherever, that there is a indicator showing that it is a Muslim country, and then that if it's Kuala Lumpur or wherever, that it identifies that you're in that country, right? So if you show the Petronas building in the background, there you go. So it identifies where you are. Now, if you're a sports photographer, because there's a PJ, you get one day you're shooting riots, and the next you're off the football game. So when you shoot sports, always shoot for emotions. That's the key. Winning and losing. The emotion. Golf, winning and losing. Always have the ball in the picture. Always have, like, if somebody gets a hole in one, or gets a double eagle or whatever, they're going to throw their arms in the air and stuff. Or if they get a bogey or something, they're going to be depressed. So always be ready to take the picture of the emotion. Very, very important, because that's going to make it. And in the background, make sure you have, says Malaysian Open or PGA or whatever. So that's important. Basketball, the same. Football is, for example, football. You can get some great shots in football, but if you take a picture of some guy number 52 that nobody knows who they are, that's no picture. But if you get a guy like a David Beckham or a Messi or somebody like that, that's a picture, right? So it's very important, because once you're out on the field, photographers only get a little section of the field in which you're allowed to take pictures of. The most difficult sport that I've seen is probably ice hockey, because it's going so fast and the lighting is really bad. So you have to be ready with all that, and then you got to know which lens to use. Now, the sports photographers who are professionally pro, like Sports Illustrated, and people like that, or ESPN, it's different, because that's their main game. But as a photojournalist for a wire or something, hey, one day you're doing press conferences, and next day you're doing football. So bear that in mind. Does it pay a lot? No, this is definitely not a gig where you can probably support a family or something. So that's hard news. Now, if you get into something like more editorial, then you can take your time, because then you do stories. Like I shot for a lot of airplane in-flight magazines. They have stories, and then I shoot for that story, right? For example, I had to go to Pakistan to shoot. I did a story on pictures on Karimabad and the the pass into China, one of the highest passes in the world. So when I shot it, then the writer used my pictures, and when it was published, I swear to God, the way he wrote the story, you'd think he was right next to me, and I never seen the guy in my life. So it's really cool. That's how pros work. I don't have to see the writer or the correspondent. It doesn't matter. Just tell me what you want. The editor will tell you, I want this, this, and this. I want this angle. Bam, you get it for them. So that was that's how you do it in this game. Now, like I said, editorial is different. You got a lot more time, and you're putting a picture essay together, so it doesn't have to be out there at the 5 o'clock news. The other thing is you will get assignments like one. I got a call at 9 o'clock in the morning from the Australians, the big Australian newspaper, one of Rupert Murdoch's things, Empire papers, and they called me and says, "Look, we hear there's a lot of Burmese refugees in Malaysia. Can you find out? We need some pictures for the morning's edition." And I go, "Oh my God, I don't know any Burmese refugees. I didn't even know they existed." So I make a few phone calls and found out, and made a beeline. Took my trusty Nikon gear, got into it, got the pictures I wanted. Very compelling, very powerful pictures. And I was finished by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The correspondent flies in from Bangkok, does the story. I send my copy and my images to Australia by 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And you got to remember, they're 2 hours ahead of me. So they got it at 7 o'clock Sydney time. The correspondent sends her copy, and bam, by 9 o'clock it's being printed out for the morning edition, and I got my front page. So you have to work hard. You have to work smart. So that's really important. Okay, documentary or street photography. Well, documentary photography is whatever you want to do, and there's not much call for documentary photography that you see that's worth anything, because now you got citizen reporters everywhere. Street photography, I didn't even know what that was until recently. It's some kind of hipster genre of street photography. Well, we did as a photojournalist. I guess you could call it street photographers, documentary photographers. Hell, if it was a slow day, we call them one-offs, and then standalones. We'll call them standalones. And the standalone shots, you go out into the street or wherever and take a interesting picture, and it'll be slapped in the newspaper with some what do you call caption, and that was it, with no story, right? But street photography, God, I guess I've been doing it for all my life, and I didn't even know what it was called. But I'm not much into that. The other one is, let's see, train to be a photojournalist and what it takes. Well, like I said, it takes a school of hard knocks. You got to be good at it. You got to be tough. You got to be thick-skinned. And I could tell you hundreds of stories. One in particular is I had to do. I was hired by the U.S. What was it called? Oh, yeah, U.S. State Department, the American Embassy here in Kuala Lumpur, because they're having a VIP come in. Secretary of State Colin Powell was flying in, and he had this huge motorcade. So I was hired by the U.S. Embassy to cover the event. So I did. And at that time, the government here was kind of anti-U.S., so they did a lot of things to make my job extremely difficult. Their so-called their FBI here, they'll come and security would come and punch you here and there and hit you and shove you around, and it was very painful. And that's something you got to do. And the other thing is, when you do riots and stuff like that, hey, try to put on some a helmet and some gear on and go for it. And the lens to use for those type of situations, always use a wide angle, as wide as you can get, and get, even if you have to get to the riot cops or to the rioters themselves where they're throwing stuff, you got to get within inches. You cannot use telephoto. I'm sorry, because you got to have that drop jaw shot. You got to get in their face and tight, right? So if you have any questions there, let me know. All right. Now, what else? The other thing, oh yeah, here's a little bonus here I wanted to show you. Everyone's making a big deal about this Fujifilm. Fujifilm X100VI. Now this is the very difficult to get. This is the limited edition, and it was, believe me, this is tough to get. Very, very difficult. And I must say the images are pretty amazing. I love it. Great little camera. It's a little awkward to use, but it is what it is. You know, it's not exactly a photojournalist type camera, but I like it, you know, especially if you're old school, you know how to use the dials and stuff. It's a piece of cake. All right, so there you go, guys. Next, I'll try to put a slideshow together with some of my pictures, all right? So hang in there, and let's see what Mr. Wu's got cooked up for next week. Any other suggestions that you want to hear or see, just let me know. All right. Later.